Ladies and gentlemen, a representative of Ferrari F1 will now make a short statement on the proposed budget cap, which I will then translate into English for the benefit of those who don't speak Italian. Thank you.
Molto bene imbarazzato, barabarelili.
Wah, wah, wah. That's not fair.
Ciao barbaschi all'arte.
I'm not playing anymore.
Quanti morborisiti, verde morto malato.
Boo-hoo.
Artaguardo, artaguardo, artaguardo.
Wah, wah, wah. Hello and welcome to the show known in Wales as
Gareth
on Speed, which is pretty much exactly what it's called everywhere else, but with a slightly different accent. I'm the Welsh one, Richard is the northwestern one.
Hello.
And Zog is the southeastern one.
Hello.
I never thought of you as southeasterner before, but you are, aren't you?
I guess so, yeah.
Doesn't make you a bad person, does it?
Absolutely not. I've only been from the southeast. No, you're right, that's fine. I've got northeastern roots, though.
Is that right?
Well, families from Scunthorpe.
I didn't know that. Are you from Scunthorpe?
Yes, you did. Yeah, you did.
I didn't know that. No. No,
I do now.
I've known him long enough, and I didn't know that. That's ridiculous.
Anyway, that's it.
Anyway,
thanks very much.
Who are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Jones.
Every now and again, we do an on speed that's got a theme to it. I suppose the theme to this on speed is music. Zog, you wanted to talk about some music you've been listening to in your car.
It was just a couple of things. I can't remember whether we'd talked before about the fact that the BBC's choice of music for the F1 coverage has been particularly good, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But good though it has been, I was slightly disappointed to find, having rather belatedly bought the last Roixop album, that what I thought was a choice bit of George Clinton use was actually a Roixop track.
Is it? Because I've got the new Roixop album, I haven't listened to it yet. But
it's good.
I hear it's good.
It is good. But I can't remember the name of the Roixop track, but it samples Funky Stuff, I think is the Parliament track. I do like a bit of George Clinton.
Yeah,
so I was slightly disappointed that they hadn't actually gone back to the original source and
but they have been,
using it
at the moment that
there was no mothership connection, basically. That's what I was looking for.
The BBC, there is a slightly more intelligent use of music, and I think the ITV coverage. By the way, I was at the BAFTAs the other night. Ooh, get me. I was there representing the Top Gear to celebrate our 5th glorious BAFTA loss. And it got to the Sports Award. And it was Wimbledon and the Olympics. The Olympics coverage was, I think, generally pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
And it was also a huge undertaking and blah-de-blah-de-blah. And then, but there in it was ITV F1, because, of course, the BAFTAs are rewarding things that happened last year in TV in Britain. And it won. Now, I think that's a bit of a kick in the jaffers, because it's like going, now here are your peers, because barring one award, the BAFTAs are voted for by a panel of TV industry insiders. So it's like they've lost the contract, but here's this final consolation prize to say that we really liked what you were doing, even though you can't do it anymore. Haha.
They didn't lose the contract. They gave up the contract. ITV didn't want F1 anymore. It couldn't afford it because it couldn't sell the advertising around it. That's what happened. And they probably won it because it was the year that Lewis won, so it was a great year for British motorsport. That's really the reasoning, in my opinion. I'm not defending them. I'm just... I think that's probably what happened.
Because the way that the BAFTAs work is that you submit our programme as a sort of representative bit of your output, and the clip they played in on the night was of the final race. And
there you
Lewis
go.
Hamilton and that extraordinary final lap,
which we all stood up and watched.
Yeah, my God, did we ever? Where were we? Yes, sorry.
Music.
The use of music. I think the ITV was slightly plodding, a slightly old school bit of a reliance on classic rock feeling. And my favourite moment so far was the use of a version of Rihanna's Umbrella by somebody else, and I don't know who it is.
I did some Spotifying on this. I don't know if you've got Spotify, and I found more versions of Umbrella than any other song I've ever researched on the internet. For one brief...
Yesterday, I think you will find
is the champion.
The most covered song of all time.
With My Way a second close.
I was going to say My Way must be up
second.
there, isn't it?
Yeah. But I thought for a moment that it was, in fact, the Manic Street Preachers version who've done Umbrella. Would you believe? It's very like the Manics, but it wasn't the Manics version. I'm yet to find that exact version that the BBC did play out at the end of the... Was it the Chinese Grand Prix? It was Chinese, yes, in the West.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of covers, oddly enough, the bit of music that was stuck on repeat in my car this afternoon as I was driving around, for some reason, the head unit had got a bit crazy, wasn't talking to my iPod properly, and I couldn't change artist or track. It was one of these tracks that, much though I love it, you can't listen to more than about 4 times before it starts to drive you crazy.
Agadoo?
Carmen Miranda's cover of Chattanooga Choo Choo.
Oh my God. I didn't see that coming.
Fantastic track, and one that, it does work best sort of slipped in between, I don't know, a bit of Nine Inch Nails and a bit of Blondie as a little bit of sort of light relief. But, on its own, on repeat, 4 times is your limit.
Can you still buy those little cassettes that aren't cassettes that go into the cassette player in your car?
I've
have
got
the
one in my
lead on the
Sora,
jack lead.
Yes, with the jack lead. Can you still get them?
Yeah.
Good.
Can you still get cassette players in cars?
Well, I've got a cassette player in my new Lexus.
Oh.
The only trouble with these cables that connect your iPod via the cassette input is that the cable that connects them is unshielded. So every time you drive past someone on a phone, you get tick 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 tick, and it's just louder than the output on the heads of the cassette, so it's deafening.
Well, the funny thing is, I had one of those things, and I threw it out only about... You know that thing where you always throw away things that you then need?
Hey, I just moved house. Let me tell you about it, yeah.
And it's one of those sod's law things whereby you will throw it out, having, kept it for 3 years, you will throw it out a week before you need it.
Exactly. I always do it with things like fronds of string. I would have enormous sort of
fronds of
nests of string in the cupboard in the hall, and you go, I must throw away the string. I won't throw away. It seems like a waste to throw away string. I don't know why. I don't know how much string costs.
String's very useful
like
stuff.
Biros
there was a whole
and things like that.
If
you ask me how much it costs, and you told me that a biro costs £1 each, I go, fair enough. I suppose they're quite, in their own way, they're quite complicated. If you told me they were like a penny each, I'd still believe you. I have no idea. I don't think anyone in the world buys biros. They magically turn up, or you steal them from your office. There's a finite number of biros.
They magically turn up, and then they magically just disappear.
Exactly.
There's no
finite number.
Gareth Jones on Speed understands that Biro is a brand name, and other ballpoint pen brands are available too. Do you know what? I had...
porta cabins, there you go. Hoovers.
Snickers bars.
I threw out one of those porta cabins just the other day.
I had an Hitachi forklift truck in my attic for 17 years. Then I emptied it out the week before I moved house, though I wish I hadn't.
What were we talking about before that?
Music.
Music in cars, yes.
Yeah. I've got a new sat-nav that's got a bit of flash memory on board and a little flash disc. So I've got about 20 albums on my sat-nav now, which I carry around with me, which talks to my radio in my Lexus via the gift of local radio transmission. So you can have my cassette adapter for your car.
Well, you've been a bit rash, because I always find in London it's hard enough to get Radio 4 sometimes, or Radio 2.
All the pirate stations.
All the pirate stations.
There's a particular dead spot. If I'm listening to Terry in the morning in the car, if I'm finding Chris Moyles a bit abrasive, I'll put on Radio 2, and I'm not feeling brainy enough to listen to the day programme.
I have the same issue, yeah.
And there's a particular dead spot on the Marylebone Road. For anyone who lives in London, you might know it. And you'll just be going on, and Terry will just be doing one of his funny little things. Writes IP freely of Hounslow. Dear Terry, and then suddenly, good coming out, how you cool I found it. It's mad, but it only, depending on, you have to stop or not. If you don't have to stop, it's incredibly. You just go
near Edgware Road.
Well, the sprouts are coming through nicely, and you think, what was that?
The answer is traffic lights.
I've just glossed all over my hand while trying to do an impression of drum and bass.
Traffic lights seem to give off RF. Have you noticed this? Right. And if you're within, let's say, 4 metres of a set of traffic lights, if you creep closer to the traffic lights, it will suppress or allow pirate radio stations through. And if you just creep, you can just tune. It's either the wavelength of the local radio station, but traffic lights interfere with my radio.
We are fitting you for your tinfoil hat right now. This sounds like your thoughts are being read as you approach the traffic. I don't know, but no, maybe you're right. I don't know.
They give off RF. I don't know why.
Maybe it's like Danger Mouse or something. Maybe all pirate radio stations are based underground, and the traffic lights are the transmitters.
I bet they don't give off anything, but I can believe
when the red light's on, please don't come in live. When the green light's on, it means they're playing a record.
Seriously though, have you read this proposal that has been mooted about traffic lights in town, and how there is a suggestion that
Green wave.
Yeah,
Yes.
green wave. That if you are keeping to the speed limit and approaching the traffic lights at or below the speed limit, that you will get the green wave if there is.
I love
brilliant
the idea
idea.
of
I think that is a
green wave.
great
Yeah.
idea.
They have it in San
It is
Francisco.
encouraging nice, smooth driving. Yeah.
So,
Beautiful.
also, and it's
Beautiful.
something that always occurs to me every time I go to the United States of America, why we don't allow the old turn on red thing, because
Because we don't have 3 lanes everywhere. If we had 3 lanes everywhere, you
yes.
could do that. If that's what it is.
But we do in some places.
Yeah,
On
and where
Hard
we
Road,
and where we
That's
do
not that
have
many
3
lanes.
lanes, we should have right and a red
Yes,
turn.
yes,
but you'd have to warn pedestrians, and pedestrians in this country would have to behave like Americans do and realise that
and
you
look for bloody cars coming!
Yes.
Yeah, and as we
Yes.
know
Why
from
don't
just
people
driving
do
down
that?
Stoke Newton High
Because
Street,
the
they just
onus
walk
on an
straight
American driver is on the driver not to kill someone because you'll get sued. But in Britain, no one sues. So if you step out in front of the road, it's your fault, not the car's
Yeah, I
fault.
think
That's
it's
the way
probably
it works.
because in America, it's a car-based society in most cities, and as such, people are constantly assuming a car will be coming. Whereas here, well, you live in London. I mean, unless you're 100 years old, then there will have always been cars coming in any city you've ever been in since you were very, very small. So just pay attention! God's sake, it drives me nuts. Why are people so stupid?
But it's interesting, there is this kind of sort of game of chicken that a lot of pedestrians will play with traffic. They will step out into the road, being fully aware that the traffic is there, and they're kind of relying on it to slow down, give them a bit of space, and if it doesn't, then they'll
in any part
speed up or
of
get
everyday
out of the
life,
way.
out in the real world, you have to use something called the stupidity assumption, which is you have to assume the worst. You have to assume that the other people that you could cause you harm in any way are catatonically thick and will do that, and therefore you have to take precautions. It's a basic part of evolution. It's a basic part of our brain that's been there since we were cavemen, that we have to look after ourselves. And what seems to have been lost in urban areas is that part of our brain, due to Christ knows what, Findus Crispy Pancakes or Trisha or something else that's eroding basic intelligence. Because the thing is, yes, it is, in a way, you're right not to be run over, but if you're walking out into a side road off a main road, it's just basic self-survival technique to look around to make sure there's a car not coming, because the stupidity assumption says that the driver of the car is not paying attention.
Yeah.
The only way to drive around these days, certainly in London, is to behave like you do when you're riding a motorcycle. I've ridden a bike for years. The rule when you're riding a bike is every pedestrian on the side will step out in front of you.
Yeah.
Every car that is not indicating left will turn left.
Yeah.
Every car that is indicating right will not turn right or will probably turn left. Every car that approaches a red light will continue, will not stop. And that's the only way you survive on a motorbike, and it's the only way
Because
to
you notice
survive
that
on a
particularly
car.
around London, bikers are incredibly aware and incredibly good. Scooter riders
Defensive
are,
riding,
because
we call it.
scooters are just dimwits who work in offices and they don't have a clue what they do. But motorcyclists, particularly professional motorcyclists, are incredibly good, and their awareness and their stupidity assumption is highly attuned. And you're right, they will assume the worst of any situation, and it's a joy to behold because they look after themselves.
I mean, and you're quite right that that's how you really need to behave. But it sort of links to a thing that I became aware after a few years of driving. You start to get into the other levels of being a road user, and once you're sufficiently confident with your own control of the vehicle, you start to be much better at picking up on what other road users are doing, and you start to be able to read the body language of cars, if you like. You can tell when somebody is going to turn left even before they signal.
Oh,
you can
yes.
tell there's a certain sort
Road
of
position, front wheels,
positioning, and the way they're slowing
yeah.
down a bit, and even that, and just subconsciously you clock right. They're going to turn left. They're not signalling. They're going to turn left. They're going to turn right.
Do you find that
they're looking for a parking
as
space?
an extension of that, as someone who's into cars, that you look at the car and you will make assumptions about how ditheringly inept they're going to be. So if it's a Vauxhall Corsa or a Peugeot 206, I assume that they're an idiot and they won't be able to drive properly, and they will drift into your lane, they will turn without signalling, they will do something so magnificently crass that you almost want to take a photograph. Which they probably do while they're driving because they're idiots. Whereas if it's something, I don't know, there's certain cars, I think I would look at a Lotus Elise and I would sort of assume it's someone who's probably quite interested in driving, and therefore the whole art of driving doesn't mean necessarily stringing together a series of bends and nailing apexes. It also means the craft of driving in town, of paying attention, of using your mirrors, of using your indicators, of giving other road users courtesy and space, and being a good driver. And that's what being a good driver is all about. There are two branches of being a good driver. There's being a fast driver. I would say, for example, that Kimi Räikkönen is a good driver in terms of the pure technical ability of driving.
Yeah.
But I wonder whether he uses his mirrors enough. Is he a good driver if he's trying to get down through central London and he's watching out for scooterists and people in 206s and idiot pedestrians walking into the road as if they are losing their ability for self-survival? And there'll be more from Alan Titchmarsh's Celebrity Autopsy next week. But now on BBC One, it's time for the Spanish Grand Prix. Satellite and cable viewers, press the red button at any time during the race to hear more of Eddie Jordan going on and on and on and on and on about how great he is.
Gareth Jones on speed doesn't have a red button, but if it did, we'd use it to be funny.
Something got my attention on the BBC coverage of the Bahrain race, where Martin Brundle alluded to some of the music that the F1 drivers were listening to on the grid before the race. And Timo Glock was said to be listening to The Hoff.
Yeah.
I hope he made that up. Because, Timo Glock, I think, has just dropped very slightly in my estimation.
Yeah,
Still,
but then I once interviewed Jarno Trulli, and he was talking about all sorts of nonsense. It was a silly interview, which was my fault, but he was a cool guy, really cool guy. But we seemed to be getting on okay. It was him and Alonso when they were driving for Renault. Alonso was very, very grumpy, and I think I've talked about this on the show before, but Trulli was a great bloke and really up for just talking about any old nonsense. But then, so we were sort of wrapping up the interview, and I was asking him what his favourite music was, and up to this point I was thinking, this guy's brilliant, I'm going to support him from now evermore. And I said, what kind of music do you listen to then? We're just chilling out at home. And he went, I like Phil Collins. And I was just, oh no. I think he might have said Simply Red as well. Basically, a litany of awfulness.
They have in the past, F1 drivers have invariably, when asked what they listen to, they've almost all said Jamiroquai, particularly David Coulthard.
He's giving away a lot of CDs in the paddock, I think.
He must be.
Spiggly Spoo.
I love Spiggly Spoo. I say it to my children all the time these days.
While the sofa's moving towards you.
Let's not go there again. We've done that. So I've got a list here of the grid as it was in China, right? Yeah. It's just the grid in China. Let's start at the back and go through the various drivers. Okay, Fizzy Keller in the Force India. Now, what's he going to be listening to? Is he going to be listening to, I don't know, some...
Eros Ramazzotti.
Okay, well, no, Fizzy Keller, what did we say? It's sort of erratic genius?
Yeah.
Prince.
Philip Glass.
Prince. Yes, Prince.
No, Philip Glass, I would say fairly consistent genius. But
He listens to Prince. Brilliant a few years ago. Now, patchy.
Exactly right. Good. Brilliant. Alongside him, Timo Glock. Can I make a suggestion for Timo Glock? If he's not listening to the Hoff, he should be listening to Audio Web.
Why?
Stop the Glock. Can't stop the Glock.
That was Apollo 440.
Oh,
yes,
bum! Was it Apollo 440?
I think so.
Not Audio Web.
Timo Glock, his name sounds like he would listen to death metal. Or
Can we just clear it?
As it should be.
Glockenspiel.
Glockenspiel. Okay.
Is he related in any way to the firearms designer? We've never established this.
We never have. We always meant to look it up. Well, we'll come back to that then. But it just sounds like he's a Glock the Rock.
Anyone spotted the Deutsche Wellpost sponsorship that he's wearing on his shoulder, which he wore when he drove for Jordan again? So I think he's a great driver, Glock, but you can see why he's in F1 if he comes with the support of Deutsche Wellpost, can't you? Or whatever they're called. Yeah. Anyway, right, the Glock. Adrian Sutil.
I don't know anything much about Adrian
I do.
Sutil. Go on.
I do. He's a classically trained concert pianist.
He's a pianist guy.
He's a very good pianist.
He's going to listen to, I don't know, Beethoven or something.
Yeah, but what was the Herzog movie about mad guy taking the opera house, South America, Klaus Kinski.
Yeah, Over the Mountain. 1898 was it called, or 1901 or something?
No, it was...
I know the film you're talking about. California? No.
Fitzcarraldo.
And well done.
And Fitzcarraldo was listening to, on his hand-cranked thing, he was listening to opera singers.
Caruso.
Exactly. Yes, there we go. I think it was Caruso, Enrique Caruso. So he's listening to... We got there in the end, Enrique Caruso.
Although...
Job done. Go
on. Knowing Adrian Sutil a little... I rather think he might be listening to, let me think, ABBA, Bronski Beat.
This is going to get cut out.
High Energy Disco.
All of which are fine music choices.
He's very camp. That's all I'm saying. He's show tunes. He might listen to the show tunes.
I was passing up to listening to Carmen Miranda in the car. So
we let that slide.
I am not. In this glass house, I'm not throwing any stones.
I've never seen you kiss a man.
Thrall, your dinner is ready.
Oh, I remember when I was the only drives the gas Jones on speed to make potentially libelous gay jokes about.
Ralph, you're missing that documentary about Liza Minnelli.
Oh, bitch. Robert Kubica. Polish. Is there any Polish rock and roll?
Well, it's probably unlistenable. I'm sorry, really, Poland. I just do not believe there is any good Polish rock music.
Bet it all sounds
Please
like a terrible Bon Jovi knockoff of some sort, or maybe he just likes Bon Jovi. I imagine they're big in Poland.
I toured in Poland as a roadie for a British band called the Bolshoi, sort of a goth rock band in the very late 80s. This band was sort of hugely unpopular everywhere, but massive in Poland. So maybe he's listening to the Bolshoi. I don't know, but there's no Polish bands.
What about Polish classical composers? Are there not a couple of composers who are often thought to be German but actually turn out to be Polish?
Rimsky-Korsakov? Russian?
I think he's Russian.
The polka is Polish, isn't it?
But that's a dance or a style of music as opposed to a composer.
That would do.
But get with polka music.
Let's move on.
Weird Al Yankovic!
He
American, does polkas. But Polish-American, he's a Polak, as he calls himself.
And we like a bit of Weird Al, so very good. Weird Al.
Eat it.
Yes.
Okay, who else? Who we got?
Nelson Piquet.
Nelsino.
Just like really, really mad samba music kind of stuff. Yes, exactly.
And that's what it sounds like in his head all the time. No wonder he's off the track all the time.
Sebastian Bourdais. You see, unfortunately, all I can think of is that bloody...
Plastic
all together now. Bourdais.
We can't do this, remember, because of the copyright thing. Because that's how I have to bite my tongue every time his name
What's
comes
the name
up.
of the act?
SL2, on a raggatip. Was the song.
Very good.
If you don't know what we're talking about, go and look it up on YouTube or something like that, because it's there, and try not to hear Sebastian Bourdais' name over the sort of refrain bit of that song.
So he's listening to a bit of Daft Punk, maybe a bit of
suddenly he's gone up in my estimations. Love Daft Punk in it.
Yes, we
bit
do.
Of Paris House.
Okay, Nakajima's next on this particular grid. He's Japanese.
Nakajima is listening to Tony Rudd. Search for this on YouTube. Tony Rudd, Music 2000 from Peter Serafinovich's series, which was
from Look Around
from
You.
Look Around You. And can I sing one line of it? Because every time Nakajima comes on TV, my kids who don't know this song sing Nakajima, 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 Jima, Jima.
There you go. See, everyone's got a song attached to them.
Not literally. They're not actually walking around with a 7-inch single or a CD stapled to their forehead.
That was a superb Fry and Laurie sketch from a while ago. Me and My Pants, and interviewing supposedly an ex-jockey, and he was going, now these pants, well, there's a funny story attached to these pants. Oh, it seems to have fallen off. It was just here in the gusset.
Go on, Nakajima and...
right, Felipe Massa was quite low down.
More Brazilian music.
Again.
More Brazilian music.
Okay, well, a little bit of a girl from Ipanema, maybe. I'm thinking that he's listening to a bit of classic.
But I don't know. He's very wide-eyed all the time.
And legless?
Andy
Fairweather-Low?
He looks like whenever the TV news does one of those things about killer death drugs of the youth, and they'll show some shots from like 1989 of some kids at a rave, and they all look like Felipe Massa. So I'm not suggesting that Felipe Massa is on killer youth drug ecstasy.
All right, mate, how's it going, Massa?
He likes to reach for the lasers with some light rave before a race. Heikki Lova. Again, Scandinavian, they love rock, don't they?
What was the name of that band that won the
Loki? Something like that. The
Eurovision Song Contest.
Oh, the ridiculous metal costumes, not...
Yes.
They were called. It wasn't Loki. He was the god of war.
No,
he
but
was
it was
Norse god of war.
something like
Mischief. Sorry, god of mischief, and could only be killed by an arrow made of a particular kind of wood. I think he had Lordi. That's it.
Well done. That's who Heikki Kovalainen's listening to.
A really abrasive death metal,
and who actually turned out to be
quite
rather
nice.
better than you thought they would be.
Yes, that was quite melodic. Though. Have I just trodden on your headphones? Ooh,
yes.
Shit,
and very funny.
Okay, next on the grid is Nick Heidfeld, who is, of course, German. And Another candidate for the Hoff.
Now, I would like to think that he was listening to some very fine German music, a bit of Kraftwerk, maybe a bit of Noi.
No, you see,
but I don't think so. I somehow think he's listening.
Enough.
No, I think he's listening to something a little bit more middle of the. Yeah,
kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit. He's listening to what's his name?
What's opera doc? You're thinking of
what's his name? Kill the
Elmer
Wabbit.
Fudd.
Elmer Fudd. He sounds like Elmer Fudd, don't you think?
Ring Cycle with Bugs Bunny, which is it is absolutely one of Bugs Bunny's finest moments. That cartoon. If you haven't seen What's Opera Doc, find it, see it now.
I know what you mean.
Sheer genius.
Coming at number 10 on this strange chart rundown is Sebastian Buemi. I don't know anything about him.
Swiss.
Yellow. Oh, fine band, and again, who sort of out of nowhere turned out to be extraordinarily good.
What's
So
the album that The Race is?
The Race. He's listening to The Race. Yabba-da-bum.
Oh, stop breaking copyright. That's okay.
Used
Used
of
on
the 80s.
Renault adverts and things, I think, wasn't it? Or say I can't remember.
It was used on a whole button, used on a bunch of stuff. I think they're living off the rails.
What was the album that The Race was on?
The Flag or Flag.
Oh, sorry,
Flag. I'm not sure whether there was a definite article. I think it was just Flag. Yeah.
Okay. Number 9 on this grid is I was going to do the chart music and break copyright again.
So frustrating.
It's very frustrating, isn't it? It's weird. Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, Lewis likes a bit of what's his name, Jay-Z, doesn't he?
Does.
And all that. It's a bit of rap and.
As indeed to your boys, I noticed this evening.
No, it's a worry.
Well, he's mates with Jay-Z.
Sipping Chrissy Bud in the after the party was the after party.
Yeah, my 7-year-old rap
7-year-old. I know. Daddy, what's Chrissy Bud? Well, slang for a very expensive champagne. Next on the grid, Kimi Räikkönen. What would he be listening to?
The same Finnish thrash metal band. No. Ice Baby.
No, I'm going to have to say I think he'd be listening to thrash metal because he's a bit of
I think he's a bit hardcore.
He is a bit. And he doesn't really care. What is he? He's not. He's a nihilist or something.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Moving up, Nico Rosberg.
German-Finnish crossover.
Yeah, and he's kind of a bit Bjorn Borgie, laid-backy type.
I think I can see him listening to some lounge music. I can see him listening,
actually,
not necessarily Copacabana.
He's a bit of a pretty boy. You imagine he would try and impress girls in a ski resort. I bet he listens to Jack Johnson or something irritating like that. Or that awful... Who's that other bloke who's in the charts the most? Absolutely awful, dreadful,
You're
weak
beautiful.
toss.
Him.
No, worse than that, if that's possible.
It's not possible.
All right. As bad. Again, I can't sing it without the...
Okay, mime it. Charades.
This is going to work on the audio, isn't it?
Jason Mraz. I don't know how you pronounce it.
M-R-A-Z.
Yeah. Dreadful. Honestly, just makes me want to pull my ears off so I can never hear music
Right, that's
again.
it. I'm never supporting Nico Rosberg again.
I'm just suggesting that he might listen to that sort of faux sensitive toss that comes out of that kind of artist. I don't know, I could be speaking ill of him. I mean Nico Rosberg seems like a decent enough chap, but I suspect his taste in music, like most racing drivers, is terrible. Okay, Jarno Trulli. Now, we know this because I was talking about it before, so Phil Collins.
There we go, we nailed it.
Jesus. Okay, next up, fifth on this grid, Jensen Button.
Gents, what does Gents like? With Somerset, any bands to the West Country, the Farmers Boys?
No, I was going to say the words. It's too predictable. But I think
Farmers
it's the
Boys
he likes.
Weren't they more home counties?
Maybe
not.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Somewhere rural.
Down in the country.
Have there been any? Have there been any?
In the absence of Violet Berlin, I've become the copyright police. Oh, stop!
The
Distinctive jangling of Violet Berlin, and she's got a lollipop.
I have one thing to say to you. Portishead?
Oh, Portishead.
And Tricky also.
Could you hang around and stop these two breaching copyright?
Can you imagine Jensen driving on?
I think we got away with it.
I think
I'm going to go Portishead.
I'm wondering whether
he's making such good decisions this year, doing everything right.
Yeah.
I think he's listening to Portishead.
But the unusual...
Massive Attack.
I've got another one for you. Off a West Country tip, but given that he's enjoying some surprising facial hairness and that he's suddenly become better than you ever thought in a more dynamic way, the Kings of Leon. He's suddenly started rocking out after all this time, and he's got a big beard, just like the Kings of Leon. Except I'm glad that they've had a shave now, but that's not the point. It's undermining my flimsy argument. Next up, we have Rubens Barrichello. Brazilian again.
Well, he admitted to listening to Brazilian music on the grid.
Okay.
So
More samba?
More samba, I think. Next up, Mark Webber. Mac.
Men at Work.
In excess.
He does come from He does come from a land down under.
Okay, next up on the grid, we're only 2 to go. Don't worry, this is almost over. Fernando Alonso.
Spanish rock.
Now, every time I've been to Spain...
What did he say?
He's listening to the Spanish version of Fernando by ABBA.
That's right, which we quoted on the very early days of this show, haven't we?
But also,
Have
you ever been to Spain and you're sitting in a bar and there's always... I don't know what it is, it's sort of like French music. When they sing in their native tongue, it always sounds incredibly awful and pompous. And it's this tempo. Ba-dum, ba-dum, dum. It always, I mean, it's below low tempo. It's like almost catatonic tempo, but it always there's a vocal over the top just going, Miro hey, it's gonna be no here no be. It's dreadful.
I am disappointed.
Are you sure this isn't just some kind of Anglo-Saxon, ridiculous Anglo-Saxon arrogance about popular music? No.
If we get a letter finding out that we've breached Spanish copyright.
I thought I'd made that up, but it turns out that was actually number 1 for 17 weeks in 1994. No, it's either Europop, which I actually secretly really like, big, jaunty, silly Europop, which you always get on French radio stations, and I love that. I'll sometimes listen to French radio in the car.
But as done particularly well by Saint Etienne.
Well, exactly. But also, do you remember like Voyage by Fearless, Desireless, and stuff like that? I love all that stuff. And for those geeks listening, and also people who like slightly gay music, like Adrian Sutton, Pet Shop Boys album's got a couple. The new Pet Shop Boys album's got a couple of very, very French electro-pop sounding songs on it. Great. But no, pompous Spanish low tempo music. That's what Alonso's listening to.
Next, please.
And finally, at number 1 on this grid, when will this ever end? Sebastian Vettel.
He's listening to any of the music produced by Monty Python.
Eric Idle.
The Lumberjack song, the Galaxy song.
Yeah,
just remember
always look on the bright side of life.
And there's
Eric the Half a Bee.
Yes, the Philosopher's Song as well. None of us don't know what we're talking about. We'd love to sing them to you, but we can't, and for that you probably should be thankful.
I've really missed. Why is he listening to Monty Python?
He's a massive Python fan.
Okay.
He is the most British driver on the grid at the moment. He is. You've been listening to Violet Berlin, licking a... What is that?
No, I'm not doing kissing, like 2 girls kissing again.
Zog.
Sorry,
I really hope people heard the last show, otherwise that will just sound like a terrifying window into Gareth and Violet's private life.
That was Richard Porter.
Goodbye.
I was Gareth Jones, and on the theme of music we're going to play out on not the Buzzcocks but my interpretation of therein. This is the Vibrococks with I Don't Get It. See ya.
Wanted a highly spec car and never had the cash. I ended up driving the basic model instead of one backslash. Heated rear window, I don't get it. Reclining seats, I don't get it. Halogen headlights, I don't get it at all. Well, I shall pay extra. Oh, I always wanted the GL model, but I don't make a fuss. I'd be happy with the Sport or Deluxe instead of not a Popular Plus. Alloy wheels, I don't get it. Rear seat headrests, I don't get it. Stereo cassette player, I don't get it at all. I didn't tick the option box. This figure's available with entry trim. To me that's a little bit strange. It seems that's an option you can only get on the car at the top of the range. Carpeted boot, I don't get it. Remote locking, I don't get it. Power sunroof, I don't get it. Vanity mirror, I don't get it. Go faster stripes, I don't get it. Inertia real seat belts, I don't get it. Driving lights, I don't get it. Cigarette lighter, I don't get it. Leather seats, I don't get it. D6 engine, I don't get it at all. might as well buy myself a Japanese cat. They come really well equipped. Ever fallen in love with an option you couldn't afford? In love with an option you couldn't afford.
Contact the show on speed at garethjones.tv. Get lyrics, pictures and more information from www.garethjones.tv or subscribe for free at the iTunes store. Gareth Jones on Speed is made by Whizbang.